All right, Nick, huge news coming to Eugene, Oregon for the Ducks. There's a bunch of big signings that happened over this weekend, and we've got to get into it today. I think the fans are going to love this. I already know they're looking forward to these guys, and this is going to help turn this program around, bring them back into national championship contention.
Yeah, Dan Lanning's done a heck of a job. He made the program good, brought it back to being competitive. These guys can help push them back to being great, back to those kind of glory years. I think we're getting very close to an Oregon football. But before we turn our head to the future, let's take a step back and look back at the past. And that leads me to my question for you guys, fans of the Oregon Ducks. Who is the greatest running back in Oregon Ducks history? There's a lot of great names to potentially choose from here. Really curious what you guys have to say. So give me in the comment section below who you think the greatest running back in Oregon history is. But all right, Miles, what you got? What's this big news out of Eugene?
Yeah, Nick, I think that this is a monumentous day because to get one big four-star recruit is pretty big news for a team. But to get two signings in the same day, that is unheard of to me. I think this is huge for the Oregon Ducks, and we got to get right into it. This is from Hayes Fawcett over on Twitter. He's a guy, he breaks all kinds of big college football news, so go give him a look if you're wanting to get your college football fix. But Nick, nonetheless, Oregon with two huge pickups. Four-star QB Michael Van Buren over Penn State and Maryland has chosen to come to Oregon. And then four-star defensive lineman Zadavian Sims over his in-state school, Oklahoma and Michigan State University, as well as many others. And this is a quote from an Oregon cornerback commit, Iffy, I believe it's Obedegwu, but I'm not going to, ponder on that too much. He says, "We are going crazy right now, and we're not done yet, Nick." So this is a huge bit of news for the Ducks. I think these two players are going to be huge for the program because first off, Nick, you look at the quarterback position, a guy like Van Buren, the number 3 player in Maryland. This is a big-time signing, a 4-star player per 24/7's composite rankings. That's when they put together the rankings from multiple different websites. So a 4-star recruit, number 3 player in Maryland, number 11 quarterback in the class. This is a big-time grab for them. This guy is going to be a very strong player coming into the Ducks. I think he can fit their scheme very, very well. I think he's going to be a big-time add for them. But, Nick, on top of that, not only did they get Van Buren, they go ahead and they snatch up the big-time defensive line signing in Sims as well. This guy is the number 1 player in the state of Oklahoma, and they snatch him out of his home state, Nick. They beat Oklahoma to grab the number 1 player there. That shows huge recruiting prowess for the Ducks here. I love that move by them. But in that same vein, Nick, they get themselves an absolute monster of a defensive lineman. He's not only great at football, but he was great at track and field as well. Great shot put and discus thrower, shows a lot of raw strength, a lot of raw power there. I think this is going to be a guy that's going to be playing for many years to come, even in the league. So what do you think about this, Nick? I know it's a lot to take in, but there's 2 big-time signings for Oregon. What does all of this mean?
I'm going to harken back to what I opened up with my first comments about going back to the glory years of the Chip Kelly-led Oregon teams, which were always going to, big-time bowl games. They obviously went to the national title game against Auburn, lost to Cam Newton on that last-second field goal. I kind of look at that to me as recent. Look, I know they've had a lot of good years, but to me, that was sort of the peak Oregon, at least in my mind, and at least in terms of cultural relevance. Everybody wanted to watch Oregon play on TV. Everyone was staying up late, the Pac-12 after dark. Their uniforms, Nike, they were kind of the first ones on it, that high-speed, no-huddle offense. They were just a cultural firestone with what they were able to do with that football team under Chip Kelly. And what that made them for a brief period of time was a true national powerhouse recruiting. And that's a leap you have to make if you want to go from a team that's trying to win maybe a conference title and a team that's trying to win a national title. You can be good and win the talent around you. We've seen that with Oregon the last few years. But to be great, you have to be a national force in the recruiting game. And getting these 2 commits to the 2024 class shows to me that Dan Lanning has the ability to go into Oklahoma, against Venables and company, against all those schools in Texas too, everyone in that neck of the woods, and get a big-time defensive lineman. He has the ability to go to the East Coast, right? He's in Eugene, Oregon, goes to Baltimore, Maryland to get this guy and get a Baltimore guy, a East Coast guy to commit to go to Eugene. Again, shows that they're a national force in the recruiting game. And if you can maintain that, and I think he can because his track record has been pretty good at this point, that to me shows that this is a team that in a few years' time will have the talent to not just compete maybe for Pac-12 conference titles, or however the conference realignment all shakes up. We know that's a big up in the air over the next few years. But they're not just going to be competing for conference titles. I think they're going to go back to be competing for national titles. I know that's what a lot of Oregon fans have been waiting to see. They've had good talent. They haven't had great talent. I think we're about to see a lot of great talent returning to Eugene, Oregon. And just give it a few years' time, this Oregon team may be on the verge of something really special.
Yeah, Nick, I want to touch on these guys a little bit more because there's some things that you got to understand, especially when you look at a guy like Sims. Sims is a player who's already physically very imposing. He's 6'3", 275 pounds, very strong, stout defensive lineman here, Nick. But he's also very young for his grade, so he has a lot of time left to develop. When he hits this Oregon strength and conditioning program, he's going to put on a lot of size and can be very dangerous. But Nick, also, he spent a lot of valuable snaps last year playing both ways. He was a tight end and a defensive lineman in Oklahoma. So I think this guy is going to be very well conditioned. He can play both ways. He can be a very big impact player. Obviously, he's probably going to see most of his time on the defensive line. But the fact that he was able to play both ways in high school shows he's got a lot of gas. He's got a lot of strength, a lot of strong brute force. That's what mainly all of these comps of him are, just how strong he is at the point of attack. He's able to disengage, make plays on the ball, etc., etc. He's just a very, very strong player as well. And then how accurate a quarterback like Van Buren has been. He did very, very well, especially in one game against a Texas Division 6A state title game. He played lights out in one of the biggest games that he could have. 13 of 20 pass attempts, 205 yards, 3 touchdowns. So he shined brightest in the biggest moments there as well against a big-time DeSoto team. So, hey, if he can do these kind of things here, imagine what he can do at Oregon. So I really like both of these signings for the team, Nick, and I'm excited to see who else they can grab because it seems like they are going all over the country getting the best players from any state. It doesn't matter where they're from.